Stop confusing kindness with cowardice. You think the person who stays calm is afraid? You think the person who chooses peace is running away? You think the person who speaks softly has nothing to say? You're wrong. And that mistake is costing you power. Let me call out the elephant in the room. Society has brainwashed you into believing that soft equals weak, that gentle means pushover, that compassion is the same as submission. And because of that lie, you've become a loud, aggressive, insecure version of yourself, mistaking volume for strength and anger for power. Soft doesn't mean weak. It never has. It never will. But we live in a world that worships the wrong kind of strength. A world that celebrates the person who yells the loudest, dominates the hardest, controls the tightest. A world that mistakes aggression for confidence and cruelty for courage. And in that world, the soft ones, the gentle ones, the kind ones, the patient ones are dismissed, overlooked, underestimated. But here's what no one tells you. Underestimation is the greatest tactical advantage you'll ever have. You think you're strong because you can intimidate people, because you can raise your voice, because you can throw your weight around. That's not strength. That's fear wearing a mask. Real strength doesn't need to announce itself. Real strength doesn't need to prove anything. Real strength is so secure in itself that it can afford to be soft. And if that bothers you, if that triggers something in you, then maybe you need to ask yourself, am I actually strong or am I just loud? Let's get something straight. Soft doesn't mean you don't have boundaries. Soft doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. Soft doesn't mean you're passive, spineless, or afraid of conflict. Soft means you've mastered something most people never will: self-control. Think about it. Anyone can explode. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can scream, fight, and burn bridges. That takes zero skill, zero discipline, zero emotional intelligence. But to stay calm when you're being provoked, to respond with kindness when you're being attacked, to hold your power without needing to display it, that's mastery. That's real strength. Because here's the truth most people miss. It takes more strength to be soft than it does to be hard. A hard person is brittle. They crack under pressure. They break when life bends them. They're rigid, inflexible, fragile. They've built walls so thick that nothing can get in, but nothing can get out either. They're trapped in their own armor. But a soft person is like water. They adapt, they flow, they absorb impact without breaking. They can be gentle and still cut through stone over time. They don't need to prove their strength because their strength is in their flexibility, their resilience, their ability to endure without becoming bitter. And let me confront you with something uncomfortable. If you can't be soft, it's because you're not strong enough yet. You heard me. Your need to be aggressive all the time, your need to dominate every conversation, your need to win every argument. That's not strength. That's insecurity masquerading as power. Strong people don't need to constantly prove they're strong. Weak people do. Here's what the world doesn't want you to know. Soft is strategic. When everyone around you is operating from a place of ego, aggression, and reactivity, and you're the one person in the room who's calm, measured, and intentional, you hold all the power. Why? Because while they're burning energy trying to intimidate you, you're conserving yours. While they're making emotional decisions, you're making calculated ones. While they're revealing their hand, you're observing, learning, waiting for the right moment to move. The soft approach disarms people. It confuses them. They expect you to fight fire with fire. When you don't, when you respond with patience instead of rage, with understanding instead of defensiveness, with firmness instead of force, you throw them off balance. And a person off balance is a person who's already lost. This is why the most dangerous people you'll ever meet are the ones who stay calm. The ones who don't need to raise their voice to command a room. The ones who can absorb your anger without absorbing your energy. The ones who make you feel seen, heard, and respected, right before they quietly destroy every weak point in your argument. Soft doesn't mean weak. Soft means you're playing a different game entirely. And you're winning. Don't believe me? Look at history. Gandhi, one of the softest leaders the world has ever seen, brought an empire to its knees without firing a single shot. He didn't need weapons. He didn't need armies. He had something more powerful: moral clarity and unshakable calm. Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years, brutalized, dehumanized, walked out of that cell and chose forgiveness over revenge, softness over bitterness. And in doing so, he transformed an entire nation. You think that was weakness? Try forgiving someone who stole 3 decades of your life. That takes strength most people will never comprehend. Martin Luther King Jr. preached nonviolence in the face of hatred, dogs, fire hoses, and death threats. He chose love as his weapon. And that love, that soft, gentle, persistent love, changed the course of history. These weren't weak men, these were titans, giants, legends. And their power came not from their ability to dominate, but from their refusal to be dominated by hate, by fear, by the need to retaliate. That's the strength of softness. It endures, it outlasts, it wins in the end. Here's the brutal truth you need to hear. The reason you're afraid of being soft is because you don't trust yourself to be strong. You think if you lower your guard for even a second, you'll be destroyed. You think if you show kindness, people will exploit it. You think if you're vulnerable, you'll be seen as weak. And you know what? That fear is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because as long as you operate from that place of fear, you are weak. You're just hiding it behind aggression. Real strength is being soft and knowing with absolute certainty that you can handle whatever comes your way. It's being kind, not because you have to, but because you choose to. It's being gentle, not because you're afraid of conflict, but because you're secure enough to not need it. Let me be crystal clear about the difference. Weak is having no boundaries and letting people mistreat you. Soft is having boundaries and enforcing them with grace instead of aggression. Weak is avoiding conflict because you're afraid. Soft is choosing your battles because you're wise. Weak is letting people walk all over you because you don't value yourself. Soft is treating people with respect because you value everyone, including yourself. Weak is being passive and hoping problems go away. Soft is being patient and addressing problems with clarity and calm. You see the difference? Weakness is about fear. Softness is about strength. Weakness reacts. Softness responds. Weakness collapses under pressure. Softness absorbs pressure and transforms it into something useful. Here's a practical example. Someone insults you, attacks your character, tries to provoke you into a fight. The weak response? You crumble. You take it personally. You go home and replay it in your head for days. The aggressive response? You fire back. You escalate. You match their energy and turn it into a war. The soft response? You pause. You look them in the eye and you say calmly, I hear you. Is there something I can help you with, or are you just venting? What just happened? You acknowledged them without absorbing their toxicity. You stayed in control of yourself. You didn't give them the reaction they wanted. You diffused the situation without surrendering your power. That's the magic of softness. It disarms without defeating. It stands firm without standing over. It protects without attacking. And here's the beautiful part. When you respond softly to aggression, one of two things happens. Either the person realizes how ridiculous they're being and backs down, or they escalate further and reveal to everyone watching exactly who they are. Either way, you win. But let's be real. Being soft in a hard world isn't easy. It requires inner work that most people aren't willing to do. You have to heal the parts of yourself that equate softness with weakness. The parts that learned, maybe from your parents, maybe from your environment, maybe from your own painful experiences. That being soft gets you hurt. And I get it. Maybe you tried being kind and got taken advantage of. Maybe you tried being gentle and people saw you as a target. Maybe you opened your heart and someone broke it. So you built walls. You got hard. You decided never again. But here's what you need to understand. Hardening yourself doesn't protect you. It isolates you. It cuts you off from connection, from love, from the very things that make life worth living. The goal isn't to stay hard. The goal is to be soft with strong boundaries. To be kind without being naive. To be open without being foolish. To be gentle while also being unmovable when it matters. That's the balance. That's the mastery. We need to stop glorifying toxic masculinity and toxic toughness. We need to stop teaching boys that crying is weak and girls that assertiveness is unfeminine. We need to stop celebrating the loud, the aggressive, the dominating, and start celebrating the calm, the kind, the emotionally intelligent, because the future doesn't belong to the people who can yell the loudest. It belongs to the people who can stay grounded when everyone else is losing their minds. The future belongs to the soft ones, the healers, the peacemakers, the ones who can hold space for other people's pain without becoming bitter, the ones who can be hurt and still choose love, the ones who can face injustice and respond with wisdom instead of rage. That's the kind of strength the world desperately needs right now. So here's what I want you to know. You have permission to be soft. You have permission to be kind. You have permission to choose peace over conflict, understanding over judgment, patience over retaliation. And anyone who tells you that makes you weak, they're projecting their own insecurity onto you. Don't absorb it. You don't need to harden yourself to survive this world. You don't need to become cold, cynical, or cruel to protect yourself. You don't need to sacrifice your gentleness on the altar of strength, because softness is strength. It always has been. And the people who understand that, they're the ones who change the world. Soft doesn't mean weak. Soft means you're strong enough to be vulnerable, brave enough to be kind, secure enough to be gentle, wise enough to know that real power doesn't need to shout. The loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. The strongest person in the room is the one who doesn't need to prove it. So be soft. Be unshakably, unapologetically soft. Because in a world that's trying to harden you, choosing to stay soft is the most rebellious, courageous, powerful thing you can do. And that's the kind of strength that lasts.